Hey Steve, you know what I hate?
What's that?
Self-driving tech. It pretty much sucks.
No, Roman, you're totally wrong, man. Self-driving tech is great, and it's clearly the future.
Well, in this video, we're going to go over all the different kinds of self-driving tech. We're going to discuss, argue about why it sucks or it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And when we get to one of the bits of tech, we're actually going to go jump in a BMW, and I'm going to show you why it sucks.
Well, and I'll show you why it's excellent.
All right, so let's get started with the first bit of driving aid that's been around quite a long time now. Of course, blind spot monitoring. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't stand blind spot monitoring because there's always a little light that's flashing. There's a little warning beep that's happening. I was taught smog, Steve. Have you heard of smog?
No, I didn't think you guys had smog here in Colorado. It's beautiful here. What are you talking about?
What's wrong with smog? Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go. Right? Signal,
fair,
mirror,
okay.
Over the shoulder, go. I mean,
okay.
that works.
Yeah.
Or you could just adjust your mirrors in the right way so that you don't have a blind spot. Why do you need, a little blinking light or a little beeping signal?
The answer is simple, right? If the little blinking light or the little beep is going to save me from wrecking my car or someone else's car, why wouldn't I want it? That's basically my entire argument. It's going to make you safer, and I always advocate more eyeballs around your vehicle is good, and that's just essentially one more eyeball, watching out for you. So I dig it.
You don't find it distracting. You don't find it
I have
big brother looking down.
I have been in cars where it's acted weird and like it tells you something there when it's not there, and then and then the worst is when it doesn't see something. I have noticed the systems aren't always perfect. So yes, you need to monitor exactly how that system works. You're the driver. You're always in control. You can't rely on the system. However, if it's going to work for you, then why not have it? I'm in favor for sure.
All right, fair enough. Let's go down the list. Number 2 on our list is autonomous braking, and I'm going to tell you a scary story about autonomous braking. I actually almost got into an accident this week because of it. So we have a Tesla, and I was driving a Tesla from Denver back to Boulder. It was a sunny day, and there was an overpass. And then there was kind of a dip in the road, and the overpass was casting a shadow. So that's fine, right? No cars in front of me.
Yeah.
However, there was a Subaru Outback, I would say about maybe 4 or 5 car lengths behind me.
Okay.
And I get to this overpass, and the Tesla thinks that there's a car there. I think it saw the shadow.
Because the shadow.
Yeah, and it went into emergency braking.
Scary.
And I look down, I'm like, what the, and then I look back, and the Subaru Outback is barreling into, really close. Luckily, I floored it, and the Tesla, of course, has instant torque. But I came, I would say, within feet of getting rear-ended by an Outback because of the autonomous braking. And that was using Tesla's Autopilot. And I had my hands on the wheel, I was paying attention, and if I hadn't been, I think it would have been an accident.
Man. That is scary, but I have to admit I've had the opposite experience, which was in an F-150 actually, a brand new F-150. I'm driving along and maybe not paying attention as much as I should have been, and I look up and holy crap, there's a car, and the thing slams on the brakes. And what's even better is, I probably would have reacted in time, but the fact that the brake system is already primed means that when I hit that pedal, it's really ready to grab the truck. You don't have any of that delay, and in that case, the F-150 saved my skin.
Steve, there's actually an argument to be made that self-driving tech makes you a worse driver. And I think a lot of people may not be aware of this, but if you have autonomous braking, it will not, it depends on the car and it depends how fast you're going, actually bring you to a complete stop.
Yeah.
It may mitigate the accident, but it definitely won't prevent it.
Yeah.
And so if you're assuming that just because you've got autonomous braking, you're going to stop if there's something dangerous ahead of you, that's a dangerous assumption.
It is, and I think, in my position, I really do think these systems are smart, but, it always has to come back to personal responsibility. And at the moment, with self-driving aids, it is kind of murky, right? Because we're not at the point where the cars are really driving themselves. Even like a Tesla or Cadillac Super Cruise, they will still tell you that you're in control. So, it is this delicate game of I like the systems, but you have to pay attention, and you can't get lazy, and it is very easy to get lazy when you have them. You're right about that. Especially the blind spot's a great example of once you get used to that little light, why are you going to check your shoulder anymore?
Yeah,
right?
I can't tell you like some of the stuff I've seen going home from work. Probably the scariest one was there was actually a woman who was driving home, and she was using FaceTime. She was FaceTiming. And you know what she had done? She had taken her phone and she had actually rubber banded it to her rearview mirror.
Because who needs that, right?
Who needs that?
That's a whole different kind of tech getting in the way of driving.
I was looking down and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Man, yeah,
so
that's crazy.
I mean, there is an argument to be made that all this tech actually makes you a worse driver and can cause more accidents. All right, now let's talk about what I hate the most, which is basically lane keep. And maybe the best way to demonstrate that is to actually go outside, jump in that brand new BMW X7 that we have, and demonstrate why I think it's problematic. Steve, I've got the backup assist.
And it's working good so far.
It's working.
So this will actually basically duplicate your exact moves that you use to pull into a spot, and then it will just replicate them in reverse. And once again, I might not use this on a daily basis, but if you're in a super tight parking lot, why wouldn't you want that?
Because you probably need to go through like 4 menus to get to it, right? But
is it gonna clear on that curb?
Yeah, be careful. I think it's about to run you in a curb.
I think it's gonna hit me. It's gonna curb the wheel, as you can see right there.
It's getting close, that's for sure.
It's getting. Let me look. Hold on. I'll use the old manual mirror here to see if I'm gonna hit the curb. I'm close. I'm watching. I'd say I'm like 5 inches, 4 inches, 3 inches. 2 inches, no.
Not quite, but that is a little too close for comfort,
That's
I'd
really
say.
close to the curb. I am actually on the little curb edge.
I wonder if it found that line maybe, and that's what it brought you to.
Yeah, maybe. All right, there we go. So let me show you, Steve, what I don't like about the lane keep, for a better word, right? It's right here. BMW makes it easy. It puts it in a little square,
A real button.
a little circle around the car, so you know how to deactivate it. Right now, of course, it's active. So let's find an empty piece of road, make sure it's working, and then have the car steer off that road, and I'll show you what I hate about it.
Sure.
Fair? It's aggressive, yeah. It's super aggressive. So even if I have my hand on the wheel, I mean, it's just pulling it, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you were an instructor and you saw me go off the road, you actually take the wheel and yank it. And you may be thinking to yourself, that's what you need to do. But if you're not expecting it, it's really, really aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, this system specifically seems really aggressive. However, not all lane keep systems are quite this, it doesn't grab the wheel quite as strong. And I have used a few of them where, you just nicely bounce off the line and it calmly brings you back to the center. And, maybe that does allow you to get a little sleepy at the wheel, but it also means that if you are drifting, if you're not paying attention, the car is going to get you back to the middle of the lane. And even this one, it pulls you hard, but it does get you right back to the center of the lane.
All right, Steve, next on our list is adaptive cruise control. And I'll give you this. On a road trip, it's great. But if you're in any kind of traffic, you can't set it close enough to actually keep you close enough to the car ahead of you so that traffic doesn't keep basically merging into your lane, and you kind of keep going farther and farther back. It's really frustrating.
And I'll totally agree. Yeah, road trips, especially on like a mostly empty interstate, you can't really beat it. It's just so nice to have. But to your point, it's just that a car, a computer will never have the situational awareness that a human does, because you understand what that gap is, who's going to jump into that gap. And my other kind of issue with it actually is that I find a lot of times they'll brake way too early as well. So then the guy behind you is getting pissed because you're braking with this huge gap in front of you. They want to jump in front of you, and you're like, well, I'm not doing it, man. It's the computer doing it. But still, overall, in the right situation, adaptive cruise just takes so much stress out of long driving.
Or it adds a lot of stress because it's the one feature on this list, right, that is very close to autonomous driving, right? Basically, you take your foot off the accelerator, and then you take your foot off the brake, and you trust the vehicle that will actually come to a complete stop if and when something...
If it needed to.
Yeah, and that's the one where I get a little nervous about it.
Yeah. You know what? One thing I will say about them, though, is a lot of the new systems have the stop and go function. And I've been touch and go with them, too, where some of them are a little rough. But I've been in a few systems. I'm trying to remember the most recent one I was in. But the stop and go traffic was actually really good. And that is another situation where I don't really want to be driving in stop and go. So if the car will actually do that for me, and in that situation, it doesn't leave the massive gaps because it knows, we're in crawling stop and go traffic. So there's, another argument to be made there for adaptive cruise.
Perhaps this is a first world or automotive journalist problem, but the problem also is that you've got different cars with different tech, and so you never know if it's actually going to disengage itself when it gets below a certain speed.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that is, we're in so many of these cars
Right.
that, you kind of have to learn the system. But that's a good point. Just if you buy one of these cars, make sure you really learn the ins and outs, and don't never trust the system. Always, really understand how it works so you know what it's going to do.
All right, the next one that I think is a little problematic at times is cross traffic alert. That's
Okay.
basically when you're backing up and then somebody drives past you.
Yeah,
Now,
what's wrong with that?
well, I've been in my garage,
Okay.
and I've been backing up, and there's a pretty long driveway, and all of a sudden I get this cross traffic alert when there's a car probably a good 20 feet behind me, and I know the car is there. I
Yeah.
see the car, and I'm like, yeah, I know it's there. I'm still have to cover all the distance.
Sure.
So sometimes it depends on how it's set,
Yeah.
but it does also work. To save lives, hopefully, right? The time that I think is probably the most useful is like if you have a dog or a little kid on a tricycle.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'd probably agree with you that maybe 99 out of 100 times it's super annoying, but if that one time saves that life, then I know it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
All right, next on our list is the one that I find completely useless, and that is, let's call it for a better word, tired alert warning. It's a little coffee cup
Yeah.
that's usually up on the dashboard.
Yeah, it tells you to take a break.
Yeah, and depending on the manufacturer, I've been in cars where I've been as awake as I've ever been.
And it's telling you that you're sleeping.
Yeah, because I think it uses an algorithm that depends on kind of how you're driving,
Yeah.
how you're reacting. Some actually look at your eyes to see if your eyes are, if your head is tilting. But for the most part, it's super annoying. I have yet to find one that actually, came to my aid when I was really tired.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you on this one totally. I guess the same argument I would make is the same argument I just made. It's probably super annoying most of the time, but maybe that one time you do actually, do one of those and doze off and it beeps at you or wakes you up, maybe then it's worth it. I don't know. I haven't had the same experience. Usually I'm awake and it thinks I'm awake. So.
And let's talk about cameras.
Okay,
There are all kinds of cameras. The new e-tron actually in Europe has cameras mounted in the doors.
Wow.
So instead of having traditional rearview
Side view
mirrors,
mirrors.
it finally has those prototype mirrors.
Yeah.
Little like
They do look kind of crazy, like little antenna coming out the side.
yeah. But I gotta tell you, dude, I don't think that you've been able to replace, or we've been able to replace, a mirror for its just usefulness. So some systems, of course, have a regular mirror, and then you can switch it to a camera.
The GM trucks.
Yeah, and then the perspective becomes really weird.
Yes,
right?
it is very weird to get used to. I'll
Yeah.
say that. But the GM is the one I've used the most, and yeah, the argument for it is you can have stuff in your bed and still get a view, like a bigger view than you would have had before. If you had something on the interior that would have blocked the mirror in the past, you turn that on.
Like a family of Elmers.
Yeah, exactly. You got a family of Elmers, you can't see much out of that truck. But if you got cameras on the outside of the truck, well, then you're never going to have that blocked view. Of course, the counter argument is, if the camera dies, well, then you're screwed. A mirror never dies.
Yeah.
Right? There's no batteries, nothing involved.
And of course, Honda and Kia do a little camera in the center console
Yeah.
where if you signal right, it puts whatever is over here, I'm a cyclist, so I love to see that.
Sure.
And the same thing now with Kia. I think Kia does it both left and right. But once again, you could do this or you could do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is any better than that.
Yeah, and the ones while you're on the move, those can be the most distracting. Like I've used the Honda Lane Watch a lot, and I agree it is nice to have that view. But when something actually pops up while you're on the move, and then you're taking your eyes off the road, it can be a little sketchy. But when you're parking, that is the best use of 360-degree cameras. You're in the parking lot, you see the lines, you see all the cars around you, you get that bird's eye view. I absolutely love it for parking, especially big vehicles. I always laugh that the Nissan Sentra was one of the first cars to have a round view camera, and I think if you need a round view on a Sentra, you shouldn't be driving it. Whereas every single half-ton pickup truck, HDs, absolutely. More cameras, more views, the better, especially in tight spots.
Another bit of tech that's been around a while is proximity alert. Basically, the little sensors that beep and beep
Sure.
louder. So, my lovely wife has a car that has that, and I'm amazed when I drive with her that she completely ignores it. I'm like, honey, that solid beep usually means that you're inches away from causing serious damage.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, I've got plenty of room.
Okay.
And so, once again, is it making you a better or worse driver? Because in
Yeah.
her mind, it's not really doing much.
Yeah. I think it's just like a trust factor. You can trust it to a point, but you always need to be aware. You need to, understand, where your vehicle is, and I think the best thing ever is, do not not start with the car with driver aids. Don't, I maybe you would hate this advice, but I don't think you should buy your 16-year-old a car that has all these aids. They should learn to drive old school, and then you get the driver aids, because then you're able to sort of understand driving and then adapt to having the aids, you know?
So let me ask you one question. Have you ever, outside of doing a video or doing a story, used self-parking? A lot of cars have it.
No, yeah, it's always when I have to review it, I hit the button. But otherwise, I just couldn't be bothered. I'll just park myself.
It just seems like it's a lot of like pushing of buttons and,
Yes.
and figuring out menus before it does it.
It is. I've seen it work well. Like I remember being in a Ford Edge and having it parallel for me, and the system did work great. So I mean, I'll advocate for that. But yeah, I mean, again, just because I know how to park myself, I couldn't be bothered.
And then of course the newest version of that is the little summon, right? Tesla has a feature,
Yeah.
and BMW has a feature where you can actually summon your car. And we've done videos demonstrating that. You know what that feels like to me? That feels like that kind of tech that's like too early and too kind of, I'm going to say creepy, right? Remember Google Glass, right? People would walk around with it and you'd be all creeped out because you were like, what are you Googling?
What are you looking at? Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way about like, here, let me summon my car. I'm like, what's wrong with you just walking to the car?
It's probably one of those things you do like on Thanksgiving when all your family's there. Like that's when you want the car to drive up to you. But besides that, like on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah, it's a little douchey, right?
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, guys, let us know what you think about all these new self-driving tech features. There's more coming, of course. We're well down the road.
Yeah.
The genie is definitely out of the bottle.
Oh yeah, and that's the real question is when do we make the jump to full self-driving and how that works, how it's going to be regulated. There are so many questions with this, which just it makes it that much more interesting, right? It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
And Steve, I know I'm just kind of old school, right? I know, I grew up driving. I love driving. I'm proud of the fact that I can drive. I know it's going this way, and I know it's saving lives.
Yeah.
But it's just another deterioration in kind of my personal freedom
I get it.
to control the vehicle that I'm, and then also this ability to like trust that I can do things in a mature and safe manner.
Sure.
And I make mistakes, but at the same time, I don't want, Big Brother.
Yeah, and Big Brother's getting into our cars more and more all the time, which is fair.
Hey Mercedes, hey BMW.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey Alexa.
They're listening, man. They're listening. No doubt about that.
It's the last place you could actually, did you see what he did? It's the last place you can have that conversation now. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Am I crazy? Is Steve absolutely right? Or is Steve crazy and am I absolutely right? Or are we both wrong? We'll love to get your opinion, and we always read our comments. And remember, go to TFL Off-Road.
Heck yeah.
For all your latest off-road news, and don't forget to check out TFL Truck and TFL Car. We got a lot of channels, too many probably.
Big network, man.
Big network. All right. See you guys next time.
Thanks,
Ciao.
guys.